after day 2 of NFL free agency, everything we thought we know after day 1 might have just been a fugazi. It might not exist because there have been unprecedented circumstances in the NFL. The Baltimore Ravens have canceled, donezo, the trade for Max Crosby and the Vegas Raiders. The Raiders, assuming that this was a done deal, went all out and overpaying Nakobe Dean, overpaying Quay Walker, overpaying Tyler Linderbaum, overpaying Eric Stokes. Honestly, a bunch of moves that I think were stupid to begin with. But then, in the back line, like, well, at least they have a lot of draft capital. Wrong. They made all of these stupid moves. They get Max Crosby back on their books, but the league year doesn't start until, well, if you're listening to us on Wednesday, the league year might have started already, and they might not go through with all of these offers that they gave to Linderbaum, the Kobe, because again, all of the free agent signings you're seeing, they can't be made official until the new league year starts on Wednesday. You're probably listening to this on Wednesday, but either way. So this all of the stuff we saw, like this could have a ridiculous ripple effect. I'm not saying it will. I'm also not saying it won't. Does a team like Chicago not go out and spend money on Kobe Bryant or Devin Bush because they were planning to acquire Max Crosby via trade? A team like Dallas, where there are other teams in the mix here who wanted Max Crosby, didn't get him, so they made acquisitions elsewhere. The Commanders' sneaky Max Crosby destination, did they go and get Odafe Oweh because Max Crosby was off the table? So now my thought is maybe Max Crosby and the Raiders find another trade partner, and say it's the Commanders. Well, that means that they probably wouldn't extend Odafe Oweh still. This brings Odafe Oweh back to the market. If Max Crosby goes back to Vegas and they just say, fuck it, then maybe like, all right, well, we'll extend Max now. No more Linderbaum contract. Linderbaum, free agent again. But then you have these other teams that address the offensive line. The Bears trading for Garrett Bradbury. You have the Lions signing Cade Mays. Do those negotiations, those free agency signings not go through? It is going to be a very, very interesting couple of hours at the time I'm recording this to when the league year opens, because some of these trades, some of these signings that went through might not go through. The Patriots, they signed Elijah Vera Tucker, very versatile guard. Do they not sign him because they plan to sign Tyler Linderbaum? If Tyler Linderbaum doesn't get signed by the Raiders because the Raiders have Max Crosby back on their books, keep an eye on guys that took linebackers, like the Commanders with Leo Chenal, the Saints with Caden Ellis. Well, now if Crosby's on their books, the Raiders don't want to pay both Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker, so that makes one of those guys a free agent. Both of those guys are better than Caden Ellis. Both of those guys are better than, oh my gosh, who's the other guy I just said? Leo Chenal. So there's so much that can happen in terms of a butterfly effect from the Ravens rescinding and bringing back this offer. But the Raiders are really getting screwed over here because they made all of these signings that weren't good signings to begin with. They were all overpays with the thought that, hey, we have draft capital as well for first-round picks over the next 2 seasons. See you later to those first-round picks. Now they have overpays at the least valuable position on a defense, which is off-ball linebacker or safety, but off-ball, like $75 million to Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean in the same offseason is stupid. They overpaid Tyler Linderbaum by $9 million annually per year. Now they have Max Crosby on their books again, and they don't have any draft capital more than their own picks that, belong to them and the compensatory picks that they got. So the Raiders, who I think are having a dreadful offseason, considering the way they disposed of their financial assets, now get double-fisted, because they don't get draft capital either, and they have to deal with Max Crosby on their books. Interesting stuff. Really interesting stuff. But there were a few things that happened today that really, there's a few teams that righted some wrongs from yesterday's episode. And yesterday I said the Patriots were losers because they didn't do diddly squat over the first day of free agency. Well, they said, you know what, Devin, screw you. Here's Elijah Vera Tucker, and most importantly, here's Romeo Doubs. And a lot of people are saying the Pats overpaid for Romeo Doubs. I don't see it that way. You have your 23-year-old quarterback, second in MVP voting. You get him a weapon. Romeo Doubs is an upgrade over Stephon Diggs. He's one of the best route runners and separators in the league. He does have a drop problem, but it's not like he can't make plays in contested areas. It's just it's concentration drops more than anything. He's a good route runner, and I think he has a real opportunity to flourish here with a great quarterback in Drake May. And you talk about the complementary piece he is to a receiver room that has two really good deep threats in Kyle Williams, who I don't think has sniffed his ceiling yet, in Kayshon Boutte. Now you get an elite separator, an elite chain mover, maybe not elite, but a good chain mover in Romeo Doubs. And if Elijah Vera Tucker stays healthy, that offensive line is instantly better. He's one of the best offensive linemen in the league when he is healthy, which is basically never. So that's like saying if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle type of thing. But if he is healthy and Romeo Doubs can give Stefon Diggs type production, even though I think he's a little bit better overall receiver than Stefon Diggs is, at this point in Diggs' career, they upgraded the offensive line, they upgraded our receiver. So in the span of 24 hours, the Patriots went from one of the biggest losers of this free agency to a pretty solidified winner. They got better offensively, which they very, very much so needed to do. And they still have the draft to upgrade this offensive line if they want to go tackle at 29, or if they want to go receiver in the Omar Cooper, Casey Conception area at the end of the first round. So the Patriots, I think, did a really good job in free agency, unfortunately. The Bears, I think we got to talk about, locked in. I didn't really talk about them too much yesterday, so I want to give them some flowers. They traded for Garrett Bradbury, who's at least at the worst league average center. He's not Drew Dahlman, but they filled that need. Kobe Bryant, really good safety, the best free agent safety on the market to help replace guys like Nashawn Wright, Jaquan Brisker, and Kevin Byard, that's a lot of turnovers the Bears need replaced. They bring in the best safety in free agency in Kobe Bryant. Devin Bush fills Tremaine Edmonds. So look now, this Bears defense is pretty solid. I think they're one edge rusher away, and I wouldn't be surprised if they sign Trey Hendrickson. If you're watching this and Trey Hendrickson already signed somewhere, then clown me, whatever. But imagine but this defense in Chicago aside, Trey Hendrickson aside, Gervon Dexter, Grady Jarrett, Montez Sweat, TJ Edwards, Devin Bush, Kyler Gordon, Jalen Johnson, Kobe Bryant. Pretty solid unit. That's a pretty solid core. They still need a CB2, most likely. They could still use another safety and edge rusher, but the Bears have had a pretty good offseason, and I think their offense is in a good spot with the addition of Garrett Bradbury. A little bit downgrade at center, but Garrett Bradbury is more than serviceable. So I think the Bears had a good free agency so far as well. There's one team that's quietly having a tremendous offseason, and that is the Arizona Cardinals. They didn't go out and make any real splashy moves. They dumped Kyler Murray, got him off the books. They signed the best interior offensive lineman to hit the open market, and that was Isaac Seumalo, top 5 in pass block win rate a year ago with the Pittsburgh Steelers, top 5 in run block win rate a year ago with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Cardinals might have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. They also signed Kendrick Bourne to a very team-friendly 2-year, $10 million deal to have him as your wide receiver 3 in a receiver room with Michael Wilson and Marvin Harrison Jr., with Trey McBride, one of the best pass-catching tight ends in the sport. And they signed Tyler Algier, who I think is one of the most underrated running backs in football. Talk about a two-headed monster and physicality with James Conner and Tyler Algier. It's a bad day to be Nate Landman or Ernest Jones or any linebacker in the NFC West, because you got Tyler Algier and James Conner coming at you for 4 quarters. So I think the Cardinals, although they didn't make any real big moves, I love the value that they were able to get in guys like Seumalo and guys like Tyler Algier that didn't overpay for anyone. Great value in the Kendrick Bourne contract. I think the Cardinals have cooked here just a tad. I didn't talk about it yesterday, but Alec Pierce to the Colts, stud. The Colts did a very, very interesting thing. They signed Alec Pierce to a really good contract, and then they got Michael Pittman's contract off of their books. And for everybody saying Alec Pierce got overpaid, respectfully, you don't know what you're talking about. Turn on the tape. The dude has top 10 receiver upside, man, if they can get the right guy throwing him the ball and if they utilize him correctly. He's more than just a deep threat. Even though he's averaging 20 yards a catch over the last 2 seasons, I promise you, he has the contested catch ability to be a real problem over the middle of the field. He's an underrated route runner. He's a better route runner than what a lot of people give him credit for. He's got a 6'3" frame, good catch radius, and 4'3" speed for a reason. The only real weakness in Pierce's game is that he's not going to make a guy miss in open field. He doesn't become a running back after he catches the football. But he does have the breakaway speed to get the edge on a corner or get the edge on a safety and take a quick slant to the house. So I think the Saints did a phenomenal job in shipping Michael Pittman, getting his contract off the books, and then re-signing and retaining some great homegrown talent with elite upside. He is an athletic freak, 90th percentile in vertical, 4'3" speed, 6'4", great hands, great body control, great contested catchability, great route runner. Not a whole lot after the catch in terms of making guys miss in open space, but he's a real route technician with reliable hands. He is a stud. He's worth every penny of that contract. The Colts are winners in free agency. In my book, the Chiefs, ladies and gentlemen. The Chiefs have quietly dog walked the entire NFL this offseason, ladies and gentlemen. Jalen Moore is more than serviceable at right tackle. He started a bunch of games when Trent Williams went down a couple of years ago with the 49ers. If Josh Simmons can be the guy, the Chiefs have a good offensive line. And they have a guy that can run the football in Kenneth Walker now and can create explosive plays. Not to mention, they bring back Tyquan Thornton, who was a very underrated deep threat for Kansas City last year. Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, and then defensively, they lost Brian Cook to the Cincinnati Bengals in free agency. They bring in Alohi Gilman. They have a nice depth piece at the interior defensive line position that they addressed. The Chiefs now have quietly had a really good offseason. Not to mention, they acquired 3 more picks from the Rams, one of them being a late first-round pick where they have made a living just securing cornerback talent in the late first round. And you look at the cornerback room, we got Brandon Cease, you got Keith Abney, you got D'Angelo Pons. They're going to have the pick of the litter at the second tier of corners in the draft at 29 because they traded Trent McDuffie. The Chiefs have had a very quietly dog walked the league this offseason. Another Brett Veach masterclass. So yeah, that's the aftermath after day 2. The Texans, I think, also had done a really good. They retained a lot of guys. They retained Dalton Schultz, Danielle Hunter. They signed Reed Blankenship to fill in for C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They signed Braden Smith, so they have a right tackle. They have some stability at right tackle. Ariante Urshere, year 2 jump at left tackle. They retained Sheldon Rankins. The Texans also, don't sleep on Houston now. They made some really good moves this offseason as well. Let's make sure I didn't forget anything. The Jets are having a really good offseason as well. I think Nahshon Wright at the value they got Nahshon Wright at, a $5 million deal is very, very good. The Giants with Greg Newsome today at $8 million with only $3 million guaranteed. Very, very solid deal. They needed a cornerback too on the other side. The Jets with David Onyemata, like I said yesterday, the guys they have on the edge now, good rotational pieces for Will McDonald to just come in and be a pass rusher because they have guys that can set the edge in the run game now. Demario Davis and Minkah Fitzpatrick are both top 10 at their position despite them being fossilized. So I think they made some really, really good depth additions. No real home run hitter, disgusting all-pro, Pro Bowl type of moves, but reliable veterans at key positions that are going to have a C on their chest, and Minkah Fitzpatrick and Demario Davis, and they didn't overpay for a Nakobe Dean or a Quay Walker like the Raiders did, and they instead paid players on the interior of this defensive line and on the edge, and they traded for Devondre Sweat, who was a young beast in the middle. It's going to be a really hard team to run the football on this year. The corners still stink. Like as athletically imposing Nahshon Wright is, he is a traffic. The guys just run right fucking by him. Okay. AZ Thomas had like a really good coverage rate. He barely played that much. So like it's a small sample size. That's why, and he clamped Jamar Chase on one rep. And Jets fans talk about AZ Thomas like he's the God's gift to football. Like relax. But objectively, the Jets got better on the defensive end. But was it really hard to get worse? They had no interceptions last year. They were a bunch of traffic cones. Drake May threw 5 touchdowns in one half of football on this Jets defense. Garbage. That's the same offense in New England that averaged 14 points in the playoffs. 5 touchdowns in less than 16 minutes of game time against the New York Jets. So yes, it was hard for them to get worse. They got better for sure on the defensive side of the ball. And then Geno Smith. You know what Geno Smith guarantees? Julian Sayin, Arch Manning, Sam Levitt, Jordan Mailata, one of them. Whoever the best quarterback is next year, Geno Smith guarantees that. Just look at the Raiders this year, ladies and gentlemen. So everybody can clown me for Geno now. It's going to be a fun ride. This is the second best quarterback Garrett Wilson has ever had. Scoop him up in fantasy. I'm talking 1,400 yards, 10 touchdowns, 140 catches for Garrett next year with Geno Smith. Literally the second best quarterback he's ever had is Geno Smith. And the best is Aaron Rodgers. So what are we doing here? What else happened here, man? I think that's pretty much everything. I don't. The Seahawks are a team that's worth noting. They lost Kobe Bryant. They lost Tariq Woolen. They lost Mafe. They lost Kenneth Walker. They extended Rashid Shaheed on a ridiculous overpay, 3 years, $50 million. That's just a bad contract for a punt returner. They did bring back Josh Jobe. They now have holes at running back, and they might have a hole at safety. But I think like Nick Eamon-Warrior and Julian Love is fine there. But Nick Eamon-Warrior is more of the star slot safety position. So we'll see. I think the Seahawks will be just fine, but they definitely did lose a lot of key pieces, and they did overpay the fuck out of Rashid Shaheed. What else happened here? Let's talk about it. I talked about Mike Evans yesterday. I think that'll do it. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Day 2 of NFL free agency in the books. That's a recap. If you made it this far, like the video and subscribe.